Hello. We are live. Oh, look at the time. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday. Everybody Loves Raymond 360. Talking all things Everybody Loves Raymond. Hello. Hello in the UK. Yes. Hello, everybody. Good to see everybody. Today, this is Tom Caltabiano sharing stories from my 9 years on Everybody Loves Raymond. Hello, Gil. Gil, you're my trusted source for letting me know if my mic works. And now it's plugged in, so hopefully I sound fine. All right, Monday is Peter Boyle's birthday. So I posted, let's say hello to a couple more people. Hello, yes, Bobby, hello, aloha. Hello, Noah, hello, yes. Hello, Windlepoons, hello, Leo in Toronto. Hello, Karen. Yes, hello, everybody. Very excited to just share Peter Boyle stories today. Good to see everybody. Hello, Australia. Hello, Barbara, Long Island. Yes. Hello, Donnell. Hello in Tulsa. Are you a dad of 7 in Tulsa? That's very impressive if you are. Hello, Kate in Minneapolis. Wow. Yes, Leo, it's almost been 1 year since the ELR table read. So I will mention a story that came up in that table read. And what Leo is talking about, every year there is a fundraiser that Peter Boyle's wife coordinates. It's usually in November, and last year, because of COVID, that's how that table read came about. All right, let's go back. Let me answer a few questions real quickly. Hello, London. Yes, was it, hello, King Me 57, was it Peter's idea to dress as Frankenstein's monster in the show, that one? I don't know that it was Peter's idea. I think it was, I'm trying to remember which Halloween episode that was. But I think it was, they deliberately didn't make him look exactly like the monster from Young Frankenstein, which of course we all love. Yes, Karen, will there be and I'll find out if anybody can remember which episode that was, where Peter dressed like Frankenstein. I don't remember. I will ask whoever wrote that script. Hello, Jay in Huddersfield, UK. Very good. Awesome. Welcome. Yes, Leo. So the condoms episode was the thing. Okay. So the condoms episode, that was, I can't remember the official name. Somebody can tell me what the official name is. That was a Steve Scrovan script. I know that because we tried, or I should say Phil, tried to get that made. And I think, was that season 3, everybody? Was that episode season 3? Was it called Halloween Candy? I think it was called Halloween Candy. That's my memories coming back. So great. So Peter Boyle, just to go back a little bit, because Paula, I don't know if Paula's on here. The question was Peter Boyle the first choice for Frank? And I think the fact that he was available and interested in doing it was enough, because you're not going to get a bigger star than Peter Boyle. Now, if he didn't fit the part, they would have said no. For example, not to compare actors, but the mention of Robert Culp, Leo. Robert Culp would not have been a great Frank, because Peter had a big presence, and so he was a menacing, he came across as menacing. In real life, he was a really sweet, gentle guy. And so I think once you have a Peter Boyle who's so good at that character, or playing that type of character, and for those of you, I don't know if any of you saw Joe Joe was one of his first, and maybe even his first starring role, which was a big hit. The that scariness really brought a lot of weight to the father character, and so he was able to. You were afraid of him. Now, so I think if you remember, Lisa Miller told that story, and I saw that some of you were able to see that Pop TV, the story behind Everybody Loves Raymond. If you didn't, I know in England it's not available, but if you do a private server, as they say, VPN, you can watch it. You can see that story, and that story is Peter Boyle showed up to the audition. They wouldn't let him on the lot. It was in an obscure area on the Universal lot, which is an enormous lot. It's the biggest lot in Hollywood. And for those of you that have been to the Warner Brothers tour or any of the other tours, they are, if you don't know where you're going, they're just quadrants of enormously high sound stages. So it's very easy to get lost. And then on the periphery, there's usually bungalows, they call them. And they're just single-story little buildings. And even for working as long as I did on the Warner Brothers lot, you really needed to know your way around. So when Peter showed up for that audition, he was angry. And he just hit it out of the park. And at that point, it was like, okay, game over. So, yes, Leo, Pop TV not working in Canada, yeah, nor in the UK either. But if you use a VPN, you can access it. Hello, ELR is my go-to on weekends. Okay, so Peter Boyle gets cast in the part, and he has 2 daughters and a wife, and they lived in New York City. So he, like Ray, decided to take a temporary apartment. They're called business apartments out here, especially in Hollywood. They're a place that you can rent. It's fully furnished. And as we've said many times, and I know a lot of people find it hard to believe, Everrose Raymond was not in any way expected to be a hit. It was something called a presentation pilot, which means CBS didn't even spend the full amount of money that they would spend on a sitcom. Now, there was a Cosby show. There was a Rhea Perlman show called Pearl. There was a show called Ink. All of those were full pilots. They had Ted Danson and Rhea Perlman and Bill Cosby. And Everrose Raymond was really one of the last pilots to get greenlit, as they say. And so Peter, much like Ray, didn't want to move his family out to L.A. because chances are the show would get canceled. And I told the story in a previous ELR Live that a friend of ours, Greg Giraldo, if you look him up, sadly he's no longer with us, he was a comedian starring in his own sitcom. He moved out with the same time Ray and I did in August, and by November he was already moving back to New York City. And Peter had been around long enough to know that's probably what's going to happen. And Peter really loved New York, lived in New York. That's where his family was. So he takes an apartment at something called the Hillcrest Country Club. Hillcrest Apartments. There's a country club next door called Hillcrest Country Club. He is 2 floors above an apartment that Ray took. So Ray got a 2-bedroom apartment, and I moved out here with Ray because chances are in 6 weeks or in 8 weeks or in 3 months, he's back in New York with his family. And Ray had 2 twin boys and a daughter. So Peter came out, and we would see him all the time. Because we lived in the same place, we would do laundry. Ray had never done laundry, so I showed Ray how to do laundry, and we would just go to dinner with Peter. And within the first few weeks of being here, he said, hey, do you guys want to come to a table read of Don Quixote? Now, Ray and I don't know that we had been to a table read ever, other than Everybody Loves Raymond. So Peter says, come on with me. And so we went to this table read of Don Quixote. It was written by John Cleese, and I'm trying to remember who else was there. But you go for these big, expensive table reads, and for those of you that haven't watched, a table read is where you read a script, everybody's sitting at a table, the whole cast. You read the script from beginning to end, and it's really the best way to see the movie in its entirety. So you never see it again, chances are, in that way. Even a sitcom, a multi-camera sitcom like Seinfeld or Everyone's Raymond, you do watch it on show night. On a movie, you never see it again. In other words, it's always shot in pieces. So they might shoot the first scene they shoot is the last scene in the movie, and it's all scrambled for logistics reasons, etc. So a movie is not made from beginning to end. And it might take 30 days to shoot a movie as opposed to a multi-camera sitcom. Multi-camera sitcom you shoot in a few hours, so you do see it from beginning to end. So we walk into this hotel room, and there is Quincy Jones, John Cleese, and this beautiful woman walked in, and Ray and I were like, wow, that is quite a beautiful actress. And it was Selma Hayek. So now this has to be September or August of 1996. So, and by the way, the movie, I don't believe in that form was made. But the fact that Ray and I were sitting there, and Peter was in his element, I forget what he was reading, which part he was reading. I'll have to ask Ray. But the fact that he included us, and it was more stars than Ray and I had ever seen at one time. It was quite amazing. And I want to think that Robin Williams was there as well. So that was kind of our initial feeling for Peter. Peter was really down to earth, really sweet person, very generous. He helped Ray very much in trying to put him at ease on stage. Now, one thing that Ray and Brad had the event. Hello, Lorraine Boyle. Hello. Lorraine, I'd love for you to join someday, anytime you want. Lorraine, there's a question about, is the benefit happening this year? And I believe it is. I don't know off the top of my head the month it is, but I believe it is happening again this year. So Peter would put Ray at ease on stage. Now, Ray had the advantage, along with Brad, that they were used to working in front of a live audience. And Peter was a movie star. I mean, he had done some TV, but in movies, it's just you and the camera, and you're taking take after take after take. And so it was the amount when Peter would nail something, when he would nail, and obviously you've seen it for 9 years, it was like no other feeling, because he had such incredible intensity to him, and he would also be able to deliver a line. And we would be in the writer's room, and Phil would always say, okay, we can't just keep writing frank insults, because they're so easy to write. And we knew Peter would hit a home run. And so we could have Peter saying just, those types of one-liners all day long, because we knew you are going to get a laugh. All right, so Lorraine, got it. Not this year. Lorraine is saying no, no. So usually there's a live comedy show, everybody out here, and it takes place at a couple of different theaters, and Ray has hosted it when he's available, which is almost every time Ray has hosted it. And so, all right, Lorraine, keep me posted, and I may be in New York with your friend Raymond. I'll look you up. Okay, all right, let me go back here, everybody. So I'm just setting the table that Peter was a very gentle soul, and he was, and also, sorry, one of the first things that we witnessed, Ray and I, was Peter one day left in a limousine because he was going to the Emmys. And if those of you that are big fans of the X-Files, you'll know that Peter did an X-Files episode, and he won an Emmy for that episode. So Peter left. We saw, hey, see you later, Peter, in the afternoon. And then he came back with an Emmy. And we thought, oh, that seems pretty easy. He just, puts on a tux, goes and gets an Emmy. And I don't know if I don't know if he even ever brought that Emmy onto the show, but the feeling that we got from Peter, seeing him every day, going to dinner with him every day, whenever we had a chance, we would go to some place called the Ivy out here. And Peter knew so many people, so many celebrities. So I'm going to tell you a story that's one of the best stories I've ever heard in my life. And it was such a good story that happened with Peter that when the person told me the story, I thought, that's too good of a story. I can't, that might be the best story. I just kind of don't believe it. It's so good. And then I asked Peter, and he corroborated the story. Okay, so I'm going to get to that story. But I'm going to tell a brief story that Peter did for me. We were backstage at Letterman, and I think there's a picture that I've posted of it's Brad and Doris, I think, and Peter and Phil's manager Rory at Letterman. Well, I was hanging out backstage, and while Ray did his set, and if you ever went to the Letterman show, there's a bottleneck. There's a little hallway where everyone has to cross. It's not a good design. It's a poor layout, but you would run into people there. And Peter and I were walking together, and Peter stopped and he said, he said, Tom, I want you to meet my friend David. And it was David Bowie. And I thought, nice to meet you, David. And so we know the stories, and we'll tell maybe when Lorraine comes on more of the backstory of how he was so connected to the rock world. But the casualness, in the pecking order of showbiz, rock stars are very much at the top of the pyramid. So, hello, Germany, V. Gates. What was Peter and Robert? Yes, Peter and Robert Culp got along well, as far as I knew, on stage. I mean, there was never. I don't know that Peter didn't get along with anybody on stage. He was a very, very easy to get along with guy, and he was always willing to talk about any subject, and he was just very open-minded. So there wasn't any, there were no, on Everyone's Raymond, everybody got along as far as the cast is concerned, and there's normal tiffs and stuff that happened, but everybody got along. And so Peter was no exception. And Peter didn't go around, as much as Frank was stubborn, Peter was not that way. Hello, Teresa in Chicago. Everything I've learned from 360 makes other shows so interesting. Reading the Ron Howard book, especially. Does Ron talk about, his days on, as Opie? Or I guess as Richie Cunningham. Did Peter have any input in the lines? He is so funny, yes. So Peter had the same, if he didn't like a line or if he wanted to change a line, he would just say to Phil, hey, I don't like this line, or it feels clunky to me, or something like that. So, yes. So the answer is yes. And also, he's on stage all day also with Ray. And Ray, as you know, was in the writer's room. So, all right. I will now tell you this story, which I found incredulous. And also, don't forget, at the end of this session, I will take out another script from the wardrobe department, and I will be looking at some of those old photos as well. Table reads recorded share. Yes, Leo. So, do we have any table reads? I have 2 table reads that I have to find in my collection of everything that I know that I videotaped. The end of the first season, Why Are We Here? Ray and I wrote the first year finale. And I know that I recorded that because we have a funny outtake with Peter from that one. Okay, so here's the story. So, Peter Boyle was in acting class in the early 60s. All right? Just put that in the back of your head. One of our writers on Everybody Loves Raymond is a guy named Jeremy Stevens. Sadly, Jeremy Stevens is no longer with us, and I was hoping that Phil can join and we will talk about Jeremy. But Jeremy, for one half of a season, was the head writer of Saturday Night Live. And he was there when Joe Piscopo and Eddie Murphy were there. He came in late in the season to try and save what was not a great season, other than Eddie Murphy was this breakout star. So they were scouting, so now we're in New York, they were scouting a petting zoo. They were trying to find a petting zoo to shoot a sketch in. So Jeremy, Eddie Murphy, and Joe Piscopo, and at this point, Eddie Murphy hadn't become the biggest star in the world yet. He was one of the more popular characters on SNL. And I think it was an assistant director. They all got in the car, and they were driving around Long Island. They were trying to find this petting zoo. Now, this is probably, and somebody can look it up, I'm going to say this is 1982 or 1983. And so, sorry for those of you who just joined, this is Tom Caldabiano sharing a behind-the-scenes story about Peter Boyle. I was a writer for all 9 years on Everybody's Raymond. So they hop in the car, and they're driving. So this is pre-GPS or anything like that, and they cannot find it. Cannot find this petting zoo. So they decide, okay, let's go get something to eat. So they pull into this out-of-the-way diner. They sit down, and they're looking over the menu, and Jeremy breaks into a Marlon Brando impression. And Joe Piscopo said, oh, that's a really good Marlon Brando. It's almost as good as Peter Boyle's. Now, if you look up, you'll see Dueling Brandos. It's John Belushi and Peter, almost like dueling banjos from Deliverance, only they're going back and forth with their impressions of Marlon Brando. So Joe Piscopo says, Jeremy says, that's as good as almost as good as Peter Boyle's. I taught Peter Boyle how to do an impression of Marlon Brando. And so Joe Piscopo says, come on, Jeremy, you're full of it. You didn't show Peter Boyle how to do his Brando. And Eddie Murphy said, why would he make that up? Why would he lie about that? And so they go back and forth, and they're having this argument. In walks Peter Boyle. He walks, sees Jeremy, who he met in acting class in something like 1964, walks over to his table and breaks into his impression of Marlon Brando. So the argument obviously ended instantly. Now, when Jeremy told me that story, I said, Jeremy, how is that? What are the odds of Peter Boyle walking in, randomly seeing you, and then just the first thing he says is a Marlon Brando impression? So I said, I'm going to ask, I think Jeremy and I were working on a script together. So when you're working on a script together, you do everything to avoid writing. So you tell a lot of stories about anything to avoid the hard work of focused writing. And Jeremy and I, there were no two writers who could avoid working more than me and Jeremy. So I said, Jeremy, I'm going to ask Peter for his side of it. So I asked Peter, and I think we were at dinner. It was Ray and Peter and I. We were at dinner that night, I think. We went to a place called Locanda Veneta. I remember this so vividly. So I tell Peter, and there were a few other people at our table, I tell Peter the Jeremy story. And so Peter says, yes, here's what it was. He said, that was the diner that I went to all the time. So I wasn't in an out-of-the-way diner. I was walking into my diner. Jeremy was, I couldn't believe it, Jeremy, who I was at Herbert Berghoff Studios with in here's Jeremy sitting there at the table and with two young guys. He doesn't know Eddie Murphy necessarily or Piscopo or the other guy. So I just see Jeremy And I walk over there and I break out my Marlon Brando impression because Jeremy taught me how to do Marlon Brando. So it just made sense to me. He said, I had no idea that they were having that argument before I walked in. So that is, as far as just a coincidence, and as far as Peter Boyle telling me one of the corroborating a story, which you very seldom get to do. All right, let's scroll through some questions. Great. Hello. Yes. Hello, Mr. Hello, Tina. Hello, everybody. Great. Let me know, by the way, if you guys have a favorite Peter Boyle episode. Let's see. So, yes. Okay. Hello, Lorraine. Yeah. So, by the way, I recommend if anybody, and this is why I'm bringing it up, I don't know if Lorraine's still watching, but the table read that we did, that the cast did last year, I hosted a Q&A at the end. It's still available. So it's if you go to, and I can't remember the exact thing, but it's the Multiple Myeloma Foundation that, and it's a charity that Lorraine Boyle does, but it's for multiple myeloma, which is ultimately what took away Peter. So, yeah, if you look it up, Leo, if you look, so the question, how good was Peter imitating Marlon Brando? He was great. So if you look up on YouTube, Dueling Brandos with John Belushi and Peter Boyle, you will see that it's great. Now, I bring up that table read, which hopefully some of you saw, because it was magic again, and you saw right away how the cast instantly was phenomenally comfortable and hysterical again, along with Alex Meneses, etc. One thing that Peter said during the table read that, and Phil had a funny reaction, that we didn't know, a lot of us didn't know, is Peter was sober. And Brad Garrett became sober season 2. And so Peter would have meetings on stage. So I don't know what the, AA meetings, let's just say. He would have meetings on stage. And Brad would go and other cast members would go who were sober. And there's an anonymity thing, but Patty Heaton talked about it on the during the table read, and so it was a very, very poignant moment when he shared that. So I recommend going back and watching it for that reason. Okay, so here's a great question. Is it Tanglung Films? When Peter said the taxi driver line to Ray in one episode, was that in the script? Yes. So that was a script called 6 Feet Under, which I wrote with Steve Scrovan and Cindy Shupak. And I had the idea for Ray finds out that he's no longer 6 feet. That was the genesis, and he's getting older and he's shrinking. That was the genesis of the script. And so I don't remember why, but we thought, this fits in perfectly. And I don't know if we would even have thought of legal ramifications of like going, we better not put this in because for copyright law, when you put in a script, like you can't, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I don't know that you can say that in a script, even though it's just English words strung together, but it's so identifiable. And I think Disney might be litigious. And so if my screen goes black, you'll know how litigious they are. So the fact that, yes, we took those, we thought, wouldn't this be great to take exactly, and for those of you that haven't seen it, Taxi Driver was a Martin Scorsese film, and Peter Boyle plays the wizard in there, and he's giving advice to Robert De Niro's character, and he goes off on this kind of crazy tangent. And so we thought, I think, this will fit in here when Ray is having his crisis. So yes, that was in there. He mentioned Frank's tribute was his least favorite. He wanted his character, Frank, not to be hated. I listened to an interview with Peter. That's interesting, Bobby. So, season 3, episode 16. Yeah, so I haven't seen that interview. I know that one of the things that you struggle with, I know with Doris Roberts, she's coming from such a place of love. And so she is, in many ways, though, the villain. So she's driving the stories. And so because she's giving opposition to what Ray and Deborah want, which is to be left alone and have peace and quiet. And so I think for like Doris, for example, personally, you're like, oh, I don't want to be hated. But the truth is you love Marie's character and you see where she was coming from. So that may be true, just as it, but you have to see, I think it's hard sometimes because you don't want to be the villain. Saw Peter having lunch in East Hampton. Yes, that's great. Out in East Hampton, yes. Now, also, the interesting thing was, yes, the coffee maker. I'm repeating these because these go away on replay. The coffee maker episode, okay, the toaster episode is called the official thing. The official title is the toaster. When Frank says, "Trophy wife, what contest in hell did I win?" Yes, and as I said before, great lines. You wanted to give Peter lines all day long because they were just. You knew that they were going to be giant home runs. Myeloma, thank you, Lorraine. Myeloma.org is the website of the International Multiple Myeloma Foundation, International Myeloma Foundation. And so if you'll be able to find the table read. Everybody Loves Raymond table read, the only table read that has ever happened since the end of the show. It's priceless to watch. You know, even Ray was saying, I can't believe how funny this is. And it seems funny hearing it from Ray, but you have this historical perspective, and they're instantly back in character and hitting it out of the park. So, great. Looking through. And so, going back to the Jeremy Stevens, I will post a picture that I took of Jeremy Stevens and Peter Boyle both doing their Marlon Brando impression for the camera. Oh, that's funny. Okay. Sorry. Yes. I don't want to get distracted by this, but Karen, you heard that Ron talks about Fonzie on Happy Days and how he worried about how they were going to rename the show Fonzie's Happy Days. Yeah, that's very funny. Also, by the way, Henry Winkler, one of the nicest people on the planet. So Peter, he was a big sports fan also. And so one time he got Laker tickets. This is just another story. And he said, Ray and Tom, do you want to go to watch a Lakers game? And so he took us to a Lakers game. And it was just a great experience sitting there courtside because, you know, Peter's a huge celebrity. And Ray at the time was not. Most people didn't know Ray until like season 2 or season 3. Yes, Teresa, season 9, episode 6, Boys Therapy, I believe, written by Phil. Very dramatic when Peter talked about his father, then brought a laugh when the therapist died. Yes, the lazy eye. Great, Teresa, great memory. Here we go. Now, so I know that I posted one of the first pictures I ever took of Peter. It was the beginning. It was 1996. It was the beginning of the series. And he was in the dressing room, and he loved kids, and he was playing with Ray's twins, Ray's real-life twins, and Madeline came into the dressing room, and Ray's wife was there. So when I look back at my proof sheets, when I look back at my proof sheets, that's the first proof sheet, is Peter Boyle playing with the kids, looking great and looking healthy and the kids loving him, wrestling with them, etc. And it reminds me, because my whole world is proof sheets through which I see Everett Raymond. Peter's wife gave me a phenomenal book by a rock and roll photographer of his proof sheets. And so you would see these great photos of, here's the iconic photo of Bob Dylan rolling a tire in Greenwich Village, and you would see all the photos around it. And it reminds me of one of my favorite moments that Peter delivered is the fat collector discussion slash monologue that he gives, and it's such a long monologue, and he hits it out of the park. And in my photo, you see Ray jumping, and he's up as high as he can be, which is almost eye level with Brad Garrett. But if you watch that episode, and I think that is the can opener episode, where Peter, it's one of the best speeches of his entire Everett Raymond career. Yes. Well, Peter was very funny. The question saved by Joy Foley was Peter an ad-libber. Again, I've hit this before, this point. Even if someone's the funniest person on the planet, even if it's Robin Williams, who's just a Gatling gun of jokes, you can only ad-lib so much in front of the show, in front of the live audience, because every script is numbered. Every line is written in other people's places, so other people's scripts. So they're waiting for this line. They're waiting for when Peter Boyle says, "Holy crap." When Frank says, "Holy crap," all the cameras move to the left. And so if Peter says, "You know what, I'm going to wing this one," all of a sudden, so there's a ripple effect. So you can't really ad-lib much on show night. You just can't. And so it's a tough thing. So yeah, but yes, Peter Boyle was very funny, and just having conversations, long conversations with him was great, because he was so thoughtful and so introspective, I would say. Now, here's a story that Peter shared with me. There was a time when he said he was very lonely in the 50s, and he was talking about listening to Frank Sinatra's Only the Lonely album, which, if you are into Sinatra, you know. If you're not, I would recommend it, because it's this very, very heartfelt ballad album that's really a masterpiece. And so Peter said he would listen to that album over and over again to get him through this blue period. And if we can get Lorraine on here, maybe she can share more of that. Great. Could see what Ray, yes. Was when he told about how he took the drink from Ray's cleaner. Yes. Sorry, I'm repeating. The fat collector for the tolls. Yes. Great. You know it well. Happy Hawaiian Boy. Question is, have you ever done a Paley Center event? It would be great to ELR talk panel. I'm a member, and it would be a great session. Yeah. So for those of you, the Paley Center, is that associated with ATAS? I mean, I know the Paley Center, but is it ATAS, or it's a separate thing? So the answer is no. As far as recently, no. There has not been a Paley Center recent thing, and I know that still Phil and Ray are hopeful that there can be a reunion show, just like Friends did, where the cast and Phil and Ray talk about memories and show clips. There is a table read on YouTube. That's good to know. All right. I now, because we're going to run out of time as usual, I'm going to dig. I want to show you, because I probably have 50. Oh, this is heavy. About 50 of these. Okay, so that is, you can see them in their multicolored scripts. That is a very heavy box. So I'll give you guys a choice. Let's see. I'm just going to grab a bunch of scripts. And we only have time to peek inside one, because it's a little bit tricky. to do that. So, here we go. That's appropriate. Here is, I know it's backwards for you, Frank the Writer episode, written by Tucker Cawley. Oh, here's a good one. Maybe we'll just look at this one. So this is The Ball. So The Ball is a very interesting story. So The Ball, here's one other one. The Car, okay? The Car. Did I show that last time? I don't remember. Let's look at The Ball or Frank the Writer. But I think The Ball. So this was an argument between Ray and Phil. If you remember the Ball episode, which is the Christmas episode from season 1, and I posted, by the way, that one picture of Peter Boyle. I think that's from the Christmas present episode. The Ball episode was Ray finds out that Frank's character has faked a Mickey Mantle autograph to try and, because he couldn't get Mickey's thing, so he gives him the ball, and at first Ray's upset. And Phil says, I think you should kiss Frank on the head in the scene. And Ray said, I would never do that. Like, I would never show that emotion towards my father. Now, this is early on in the series. And so there's also a trust thing where you have Ray, who's used to being a stand-up comedian, and Ray writes every joke himself. He's the writer, producer, director of his act. So there's nobody else giving him ideas or saying, hey, you should do this. So now all of a sudden he has to trust Phil as the writer. And so Phil says, I just think you should do it. And Ray was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to kiss Peter Boyle on the head because I wouldn't do that. And so Phil convinced him, just try it once in front of the live audience. And Phil can tell the more detail of the story. But Ray did it, for those of you who know the series. And it was such a poignant moment and scored so well with the audience that I think it was a turning point in Ray's trusting of Phil. And so, also what the audience wants to see, and also the separation of Ray from Ray Romano, the person, stand-up comedian, and Ray Barone, the actor. Let's see. Okay, great. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through and catching up. So Karen, I posted a picture of Peter with a lady with a fan. Yes, that's Shelley Woodhouse Collins, who was hair and makeup. She was makeup. And she's holding a fan on Peter. So it was hot. The lights were hot. So now they have something called LED lights. But back then, they were all incandescent lights. So you had to have the air conditioning off. So you would say, on the set, you'd say, okay, we're going on a bell. And you would hear everything would shut down. You would hear, and the air conditioning would shut down. And then, you're giving your all. So Peter's hair was, if he started to sweat, Shelley would come out and take this little fan and basically blow dry Peter's hair. So yes, so that is the question. Lorraine, you don't know that story. The old, it was because I was very much, Jeremy Stevens and I would talk about Sinatra ad nauseum. So, no verbal, yes. Okay, so here we go. For those of you who've never seen this before, this is one of the wardrobe department's scripts. And the wardrobe department has to take Polaroid photos of every scene, of every actor, and every single costume change. So they have to be able to, for continuity, they have to take a picture. And so if something has to be reshot, or they're going between scenes and they're like, wait a minute, did Ray have a tie? So when you go online and see bloopers, and people are saying, or continuity errors, where they go, hey, the cup was over here versus the cup is over there. That helps prevent this, and also they have to keep track of what is someone wearing. So we're going to look at the Ball episode, The Ball, written by Bruce Kirschbaum, November 1996. This is the table read draft. Okay, so when you page through this, here is the script. The front cover says table read, but the inside is yellow, which tells me it's the shooting script. And here's a little inside tidbit too. When you make changes, when you get a script, you see these little stars. You see those stars? That tells people that there is a change there. So, and it might just be deleting a line, so it might not be a new line. But you're looking for stars if you're paging through your script that you just got, and you go, okay, let me look for the stars. That's where the changes are. All right. First picture. Here we go. So I know it's backwards again. Teaser. So there's Ray in bed with Patty, and this is Raymond. You can see it's backwards, I know, but this is Raymond's page. So this is only photos of Raymond. Let's see the next one. So that's, because it is wardrobe, that's what was hanging on the wall. So Ray's coat on the wall. And now let's see this. There we go, Ray. Now, if you know the episode, you'll know the outfit he's wearing. And sometimes a scene gets cut. So you might be looking at this going, I don't think I saw that in the episode. Here's another one of Ray. All right, so that must be, and I can't tell who's behind him. Maybe you guys can. Is that maybe Tom McGowan? I can't tell. Don't think it is. All right, next page. Give me some thumbs up if you're enjoying this. All right, Peter Boyle. So at the top of the page it says Frank. And I've explained before, there's Peter. The wardrobe person is trying to be as innocuous as possible. So that's why a lot of these photos, the person is not looking. The actor's not looking. Okay. And then, wow. Okay, everybody, we're seeing these for the first time ever. And there's Peter with a big smile. That's a great shot. That is a great shot of Peter in his Santa Claus outfit. That was worth the price of admission right there. Okay, I will take a picture of that. I will post that. That's a Polaroid again. And now here's another one of Peter with his hat off. Lorraine, if you're watching this, I've never seen these before. No one has seen them since shoot day, probably. A great shot of Peter. That's awesome. Okay, here's Brad. Now, if you remember the episode, all right, there's Brad wearing his normal attire. And there is Brad dressed as Santa Claus as well. Great. That is probably the world's tallest Santa Claus outfit. That's probably a large triple tall. All right, great. These are great. I hope you're enjoying these as much as I am. Okay, now here are the twins. And what's funny is there's only one picture of the twins. I guess, were they dressed identically? Do you remember if they were dressed identically? But they saved money on photos. That was actually one of Ray's jokes. He used to say, I have twins, and he would show a picture. He'd say, you save money on pictures that way. Here's one of my twins, and I got another one just like it. Andy Kindler in the episode. There is Andy, who will be joining us again in an upcoming thing. There we go. Andy Kindler. And Patricia Heaton. So this is teaser. This is the beginning of the script. The teaser is the very first thing that you see. Sometimes Phil would come back from editing and say, I cut the teaser and we start in the A scene. And you would go, oh, we had such a funny teaser. So there's Patty, November 1996. There we go. for those of you who know the episode, does that look like a familiar outfit? There we go. Again, never before seen by the public. All right. And wow. Now, I have to, next time Ashley's on, not Ashley, next time Aaron is on, we have to ask about Doris's makeup, because Doris looks a little bit white there. There we go. And let's see who else. Oh, here's another one of Doris. Oh, and again, just showing her earrings, because wardrobe is responsible for everything. Sorry. Let me show her earrings again for those of you that are into Marie's earrings. Scene D, day 6, it's saying. And here is, so this is, now I don't know, that doesn't look like, it says that's Allie. Yes, so there's Maddie Sweeten, sorry. And I can't tell who's in the background. Maybe you guys can. Hold it up for one more second. Yeah, so there we go. The first time ever seen The Ball, Inside the Ball episode. And that picture of Peter Boyle is so great. Let me show that again, because I will send that to... Great. Peter Boyle in the Ball episode, smiling, wearing his Santa Claus outfit. So let me scroll through so you can see if I missed any. Whoops, I paused. Yes, the teaser is the beginning. Yes, I explained that. Andy, very funny. Final things. Yes, 6'8" Saint Nick. That is true. Great picture of him. Thank you, everybody. This is the episode where Raymond is going to spill the beans about Santa. Yes. Oh, great, Lorraine. So that makes me smile seeing that photo of Peter. All right. Peter's birthday tomorrow. I'll be posting. I have too many photos of Peter. But I'll post as many as I can. But I have thousands of pictures of Peter. Leo, were these scripts typed out or printed? They're all printed. Everything is printed in our day of Everose Raymond. They were all printed. They were all in the word processor. Nothing, if that's what you mean, yes. I know that on Seinfeld, Jerry and Larry would write on cards. On yellow legal pads, and then they would transcribe them. Lorraine, I'd like to hear your Sinatra late 70s story. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Don't forget to tell your friends to follow for Everybody Loves Raymond Behind the Scenes story today, talking about the great Peter Boyle. I will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for following along. Don't forget to share. And I love your comments. I usually, if I don't answer them, I will, if I don't answer them writing them, I'll answer them during our lives every week. So thank you very much, everybody. See you next week.